We're gonna go over all the key aspects behind having an explosive upper body for basketball players, and we're gonna start right now. What's up, everybody? It's Dan Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is the first time you've been to the channel and you're interested in learning about being a better athlete, you want to be more explosive, you want to get stronger, you want to increase your power performance, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you conquer your opponents. So when we're talking about basketball, we've got to understand a couple key factors. We have to understand, what do we use our upper body for? We might use it to move opponents around. We might use it to stabilize our body while we're moving. We might utilize it while we're banging inside the paint. So there's a couple key factors behind training our upper body. But one of those big facets behind basketball is that we don't want to be too bulky. We don't want to get to that point where we can barely move, where we're just these big hulking individuals that aren't super mobile, that aren't super explosive. If that happens, that might have a negative impact on our finesse. That might have a negative impact on our shot. We want to be athletes that look similar to LeBron James, to Scottie Pippen, to Michael Jordan, to all these world-class athletes, all these great basketball players. And one of those key factors, I got to spend a lot of time talking with Al Vermeil, the strength and conditioning coach for the Chicago Bulls in the 90s, with Mike Gattone, who personally worked with Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, BJ Armstrong. And when it came down to everything that they talked about with training the upper body, is that basketball players, if we're talking about upper body strength, they have to know how to utilize their trunk stability. They have to know how to utilize their core, their upper back, everything all in conjunction to create a foundation of explosiveness. Okay, so that's a really, really key factor when we're talking about explosive-based upper body training, is that we have to look at it from that macro perspective. It's not just about getting big arms, getting big shoulders. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking to generate explosiveness, and that comes from that core foundation, literally in your core, in your trunk, in your back, in your upper back. And so now we're going to go into those top 4 upper body explosive exercises to help basketball players dominate on the court. That first exercise is going to be easy, okay? So we've got to think about, where does everything start? It starts in our feet. It starts in our hips. It starts transferring that energy from the foot into the hips, now into that upper body. That first exercise coming in at that number 4 spot is going to be the dumbbell snatch. Now this is an easier movement. It's easier to execute. It's a way for us to bring in some Olympic-based movements into the realm of basketball, but to make it simple. When we're talking about taller individuals, bigger athletes, taller athletes, we're talking about athletes that struggle to do full Olympic lift movements. They might have instabilities, they might have mobility, range of motion issues. But when we're talking about a dumbbell snatch, we can go from that quarter squat position, we can explode with our hips. And where does that transfer over to the upper body? We're finishing with a big shrug from the traps. We're finishing and catching overhead. We have to have thoracic extension. We have to have a stable trunk when we're catching overhead, so that now our shoulders are able to stabilize that weight rapidly, okay? And that's the key factor here, is that we are moving very, very quickly and then into an isometric muscular action overhead. Now when we're overhead, we have to squeeze our trunk, we have to squeeze our abs, we have to engage our lats, we have to engage our thoracic spine to stabilize that weight overhead. And that's a key component behind upper body explosive exercises for basketball. So dumbbell snatch, I recommend doing this twice a week for 5 sets of 3 on each arm. Coming in at that number 3 spot, we're talking about some more trunk stability, some more upper body explosiveness that involves our abs, involves our rotation, okay? This is a side medicine ball throw. And the reason why I love this for basketball players is because it forces athletes to learn how to apply force on a different plane. It forces the athlete to learn how to use their hips in rotation and to use their trunk in conjunction with their hips. And then that in turn leads to their upper body, leads to utilizing their arms a little bit more effectively. And that's the key component here. When we're talking about basketball, we might be dipping here, okay? We might be trying to cut a little bit quicker. So if we're cutting, we have to have that dynamic trunk control. If we have dynamic trunk control, we can cut and be more agile. And then on top of that, if we can post up and juke somebody out a little bit quicker, or if we're even trying to lean into somebody, now we know how to use our upper body effectively. Remember, we are looking for neurological adaptations. We're not looking for metabolic adaptations. We don't want dudes that are walking out looking like bodybuilders. Yes, they can be more muscular. They can look good in their jersey, but they don't need to be bodybuilders. They need to move quickly, okay? And that's where the side medicine ball throw comes in. I recommend doing this 4 sets of 5 on each side twice a week, okay? And really focus on accelerating through that entire pattern. Throw it into a wall, catch and absorb that weight. When we learn how to absorb that energy rapidly, we can reapply it quickly, and that's gonna lead to those big gains out on the court. That next big exercise for the upper body, it's gonna be something that I stole directly from Al Vermeil. He loved having the bulls do different variations of jerks. He loved having them go off of boxes and do push presses. He loved having them do behind the neck jerks. Taller athletes do really, really well with behind the neck jerks. And that's exactly what we're gonna be utilizing, is a behind the neck split jerk. Basketball players are in that unilateral position a lot, okay? And on top of that, they're also in a position where their hands are above their head. A lot of times they're looking to be more defensive. They're looking to be explosive in that defensive position. They also need to have their hands overhead and to engage their hips, to engage their trunk, okay? So when we're doing a behind the neck jerk, we're gonna use an exercise that's gonna help improve the vertical jump while training rapid extension in the upper body. This is a phenomenal exercise. Not only is it going to help improve their performance going up to get the boards, but on top of that, it's going to help them be more stable in their thoracic spine. A lot of taller kids, when they're growing up, they tend to be a little bit hunched over here. And now we start to open them up. Their shoulders start to open up. Their traps become more explosive. Their rhomboids become more protective of their entire shoulder blade. They're more stable overhead, and they can hold that stable position more effectively. So utilize behind the neck jerks, but make sure you're starting light. You could start with 10s on each side, and we want to focus on that big drive, that big drop, and that rapid connection with the hands and our feet at the exact same time. Utilize this movement once or twice a week. Start light, build up over time. Utilize jerk boxes, so that's gonna make it a little bit easier on your shoulders. You can even do a behind the neck jerk and then lower eccentrically. So now you're gonna be targeting the triceps, the deltoids through the eccentric portion, and then hitting that again up overhead. So this is a phenomenal exercise that you can utilize to improve your upper body explosiveness. Now, before we get into that number one key exercise for explosive upper body training for basketball players, if you struggle with getting into the weight room, you don't know what to do as a basketball player, you don't want to get too big, but you want to be more explosive, you want to be stronger, you want to be able to bang a little bit better inside the paint. We have an entire program that we put together. We have a 12-week strength training for basketball players that we designed to optimize performance on the court and to prevent injuries and to increase explosiveness so that you can dominate your opponents. You can click on the link down below. You can head over to garagestrength.com and you can pick up that basketball strength training program today. Now, that number one explosive upper body exercise, remember, the theme here is utilizing the trunk together with our upper body, utilizing the hips with our upper body. I love to have basketball players do explosive push-ups. Okay, so we'll do 10 to 12 explosive clap push-ups. Extend rapidly, be explosive, right? You learn how to recruit very rapidly with the triceps, the deltoids, the pecs. Absorb force, absorb energy rapidly, okay? Do 10 to 12 clap push-ups. Then we're gonna get into that plank position and we're gonna do a walrus. So now we're engaging that core. Now we're walking about 15 to 20 yards. And then we're gonna finish off with 5 more clap push-ups. So we're learning how to be explosive. We're engaging that core a little bit further, and we're learning how to utilize dynamic trunk control. And then we're gonna finish off that entire set with some more explosiveness. So it's gonna help with speed, endurance when we're fatigued. It's gonna help with dynamic trunk control, and that's gonna lead to you utilizing your upper body more effectively, you utilizing your shot more effectively, and even understanding and learning how to utilize your core in conjunction with your hands, with your shoulders, and bracing properly so that you are a better basketball player. That's the whole goal here that we have to remember. We're not looking to build bodybuilders. We are looking to build better basketball players. I recommend doing clap push-ups with a walrus twice a week. It's gonna help build muscle, it's gonna help with the neurological connections, it's gonna help you be a little bit faster, and it's gonna lead to better positions on the court. So if you need help with your strength training as a basketball player, you can click on the link down below. You can head over to garagestrength.com and you can pick up our 12-week program today. If you want more content, more information about basketball-based training, click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.